Hello, my name is Jesse. Welcome back to part 9 of demonic upbringing. So, continuing on uh, in this part, things have just started to go really, really dark for me. I'm getting farther and farther away from the Lord. I'm super self-absorbed. Doing a lot of drugs and just really walking my path, my own path. And what's interesting is one evening I just got onto the security site, and there was an altercation up in the food court, and there was a Middle Eastern guy that had an issue with one of the restaurant cashiers, and he'd been given some food that he didn't want, and this food was against his faith, so he was really irate. And I spoke with the cashier and said, look, you don't have to mean it, but just apologize to him and refund him or whatever it is, so we don't have to escalate this any further. I'm going to take him down to the security office. I'm going to process him. I'm going to let him know that this isn't accepted. So she agreed. She did all that, and then me and my partner took him down to the security office, and we had him sat in there. And I mean, my partner at that time, well, this partner, I had two, and this guy, he was just rude to him, really, really rude and really mean. And I generally wasn't outwardly mean to people, that just wasn't me, right? So my partner left after some really nasty words, and then as he was leaving, I said to my partner, I said, look, okay, that's against his belief system. You don't have to be giving him a hard time like that. Just, you don't have to be like that. And he just fluffed me off and left. And then the guy says to me, first time I've ever been asked in my life, first time ever, are you a Christian? I was like thinking, well, raised Roman Catholic, technically I am. I responded, yeah, I am. And he said, thank you. I was like, sure, bud, yeah, no worries. After I publicly declared that I was a Christian, that's when the enemy came at me. Target on my back, I guess. I don't know. I know Jesus must have been smiling. The Holy Spirit was probably throwing a party, because I had now said my own, Never gave it much thought after that. Took some more drugs. One particular evening is when I had my first demonic entity encounter. And I had taken mushrooms, hallucinogenic. And I mean, I'm watching other people play video games and stuff, and things on the screen are coming out at me. I'm like, it's I'm being an idiot. And then out of nowhere, this demonic entity starts talking to me, and it starts telling me I can do things that I shouldn't be able to do. And I'm curious, and I start talking with this thing. And I was like, yeah, like what? Teach me. And it says I can command people to do things against their will. I can force them to do it. So at this point, my roommate is sitting on the other side of the room with this lady friend that he had. And he says, go on, try it out. So I commanded this lady friend of his to come over to me. And she shook her head like, no. And I said to the demonic entity, I said, well, that didn't work. What happened? So we didn't will it hard enough. Will it, and then it will be. Now my roommate, who was much more experienced with hallucinogenics than I was, I think he kind of sensed what was going on, because the next time I did it, I wouldn't say with will, but I did it with anger. And I was like, you come here. And then she tensed up, and then he gave her, I could see he gave her the elbow, go on over there, appease him. So she came over, and I was like, it worked. Even though I know it kind of really didn't. And it was telling me some more stuff. honestly, I don't remember exactly everything, but I came up to a wall in my apartment. I mean, this sounds ridiculous, but I said, I can destroy that wall with my fist. And it says, yeah, you can do that, but it's gonna hurt. And do you want that pain? And I was like, no, I don't want to feel any pain. No, nothing like that. And the rest of the evening, I don't remember. I think I retired to my room, listened to some more music and whatnot. But yeah, that was my first encounter with a demonic entity. And after that, I got really depressed. Like, really depressed. And I didn't want to be there anymore. I didn't want to be in that apartment anymore. I had moved with my roommate into this place where we were all sharing the same environment. I didn't like it at all. And I started to really hate my job. And it was just, I wanted to get out of here. I was thinking maybe I should go home. And when I called home a few years before when things were really rough, I spoke with my mother and I said, I wanted to throw in the towel then and say, I want to come home. And she says, there's nothing for you back here. You know, there's nothing here. Why would you want to come back here? Tough it out, see what happens. So I did. And I was at this point, I was like, you know what? No, I don't want to be here anymore. And then, somehow, I planned within my next paycheck to quit my job, buy a plane ticket, and then just go home. And then I lost my wallet. I was like, I can't get home now. Now what am I going to do? And I still had some mushrooms left over, so I took them and invited 2 other security officers that I worked with on the day shift over to hang out. Like, we were work associates. We were friends. We'd partied quite a bit out to the clubs and whatnot. We rented a bunch of horror movies, yet again. And they came and we were watching them. I was sitting on the couch and they're on a couch off to my right. And we're watching these films. We'd taken the mushrooms and they're starting to kick in. And I remember watching the movies going, I can see everybody else in these movies, like they're archetypes, who they are. But I don't see me. I'm not in there. Who am I? I started getting really introspective. Like, who am I? What's this? And then I noticed that all these people in the movies, I was like, they're evil. They're evil people. But I'm not evil. I'm good. And then I looked over at them, and they had like a dark cloud all around them. And I was like, they're evil. And they both looked at me simultaneously. And they nodded their heads and they both said, yes, we are. And I freaked out. I mean, even talking about it right now, the hair on my arms is standing up. So I was like, I gotta get out of here, because this ain't a good spot to be. So I got up, and once again, it was wintertime, and it was very cold. So I went to the back door, which is the exit, and we had a roommate in the basement that was living down there. And I forget his name. I didn't know him very well. And as I'm leaving, he's at the basement stairs looking up at me. He says, are you scared yet? And I said, yep, I totally am. So I opened the door and off I went. So I'm outside now, wind's howling, super cold, and everything just seems dark. Like, I'm right downtown in this major city, and everything just is dark. It just feels icky, gross. So I'm like, what am I going to do now? And then a voice pops in my head, so maybe you should go to work. It's a safe place. Go there. I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. So I walk out in the street, right in front of, I can see a cab coming. I walk right out in front of it. I mean, I don't know what speed it was traveling, but it really had to slam the brakes on in order not to smoke me, And I just stood out there with like my hand like that. And it stopped. And I got in. And I said, take me here, which is where I work. And he says, okay. It's about 3 blocks away. We get about 2 blocks, and I remember I don't have my wallet. I don't have any money. And I said to him, there's no way I can possibly pay you. I don't have any money. And he says, get out of my cab. Get out of here. Get lost. So he stopped. I got out. I said, thanks. And I walked to work, and I buzzed myself in, because it's night. The security site's closed to the public. So I get buzzed in. I go down to the security office, and I'm talking with my boss. And I just feel this impending dread. Like my life is over. Like my life, I'm going to die. I'm just like, wow, it's intense. And he's talking to me, and I'm kind of fluffing him off, and he's got these magazines, like these fashion magazines. I don't know what they were doing in there, but I'm looking at them, and there's all these beautiful women, and I'm like, I might have had her, I might have had her, I might have had her. It's just all flesh, right? All selfishness. And then he looks at me, my boss, dead set, stone-faced, He says, you need to go to the basement. Now, we had a 4-level parkade system in this retail area, all right? Which I knew really well. I had to do security checks down there. And he says, you need to go to the basement. And I was like, okay, man. Yeah, sure. So I got up and I left the office. And I was like, there's no bloody way I'm going down to the basement. That's dark. That's dingy. I'm like, I feel like I'm going to die. That's not where I'm going to die. So I went upstairs. And this retail outlet is 4 floors. Okay, marble floors. So I go up to the first floor. The escalators are all turned off. So I sprint up the escalator all the way up to the 4th floor. And I just get this feeling like there's these demonic things, these entities that are coming to rip me apart. And they're going to rip me limb from limb. And it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be extremely painful. And it's going to be a horrible way to go out. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, maybe I can take some of them out with me. At least I'll go down fighting. But then I was like, no, I don't want to be ripped apart. No. What will that solve? So I looked down, 4 floors, marble floor. If I jump head first, I'll probably die, because I don't want to be like paralyzed or anything like that. That's no life to me. So I climb over the edge, and I'm holding on to the railing like this, and I'm looking down, and I'm thinking in my head, I don't really want to do this. I really don't want to do this. I don't want to die, but I don't want to be ripped apart either. And then in my head is my father's voice, my earthly dad. And he's got a very distinct voice. If you've ever heard him, you haven't, but trust me, very distinct. And he says, Jess, what are you doing? And I said, Pops, I gotta do it. They're gonna rip me apart. No, you come back over the ledge, I'll take care of you. And I was like, you sure? And he says, yeah, don't worry, just get back over here, I'll send someone to help you. And I was like, okay. So I climbed back over. I kid you not, immediately, I didn't even see anybody around. There was nobody around. Immediately there's this guy there, and he's dark skinned, and he's broken English, but he says, are you okay? And I said, no, man, I'm so far from okay. I'm totally not okay. And he says, come with me, I'll help you. And I was like, okay. So I went with him. We went to another part of the area, and he was a tile repair guy, right? So like I said, it's all marble tile, and he's doing repairs. And he's mixing some solution up in this bucket. Obviously, I'm thinking for repairs, and there's a female with him. I'm guessing it's his wife. I don't know. And I said, hello? And he said, hello? And he said, so what seems to be the problem? And I was like, dude, if I told you, you wouldn't even believe me. And he was like, try me. So I said, okay. Well, there's these demonic things that are trying to kill me, and they're going to rip me apart. And he says, she screams. Like, she audibly screams, like, ah! And she then puts her hand over it. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. You know, that's not what I wanted to do, kind of thing. He says, you got to come with me. So we went downstairs to the first floor, and he took me around a corner, and he had this workstation set up, and he had this tile, this marble tile that he was cutting, and he put it under a saw, cutting saw. And he looks at me and goes, hey. And I looked at him, and then he started cutting the tile. It was just like that sound. And he says, this is what we do to your kind in my country. And I was like, whoa, that ain't cool. So I bolted out of there, and I ran straight up to the 4th floor. And then I'm freaking out. I'm like, what am I going to do now? Now what am I going to do? Like, that didn't work. Okay. I did security for this premises, so I know the whole area. And in this corner is this walk-in clinic, okay? It's got glass doors. I'm thinking, okay, in there, they've got medical supplies. I can get a scalpel, and I can, you know, see you later. But how do I get in there? Well, there's a garbage can there, metal. So I grabbed that, hoisted that over my head, threw it at the glass doors, bounced right off. Plexiglass. Way to go, you idiot. So I'm like, I can't even do that right. What's going on? What am I going to do now? They're almost here, kind of thing. I felt this impending doom. Voice in my head says, why don't you call the cops? They're there to serve and protect, right? It's a great idea. I'll do that. So I leaned over the railing. There was the guy. He was talking to his wife again. And I said, hey, you. Go call the police. Call 911. He did it. So that's it for part 10, I think. That's what we're on. Yeah. And God bless you, and stay tuned until the next episode. I love you all very much.